Welcome to Kicking Your Teens Troubles to the Curb with host Christina Nation, the ultimate guide for parents navigating the challenging yet rewarding journey of raising teenagers. Join your host Christina as she dives deep into the world of adolescence, tackling everything from academic pressures and social dynamics to mental health and independence. So please, welcome the host of Kicking Your Teens Troubles to the Curb, Christina Nation.
Hello and welcome to Kick Your Teens Troubles to the Curb. And I'm your host, Christina Nation. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited about our show. I have a wonderful guest that I'm excited to introduce to you. Tess Connolly is with us today. So I'm going to read her bio and introduce her to you. So, Tess has worked as a clinical social worker in mental health with children and families for over 20 years before launching and founding Mindful Kids and Families. As a parent and family coach, she works inside families to transform their communication and connection, building agreements, shifting unhealthy dynamics, and supporting parents and teens to have the best relationship. Tess is also a psychotherapist for tweens and teens in her Marin County office. Tess has founded the Conscious Moms Collective membership for mothers of tweens and teens to provide monthly parent coaching, a safe place for personal growth, develop new skills, and get connection and support from other moms. As a true extrovert and direct communicator, Tess loves the conversations and connections she provides her audience as the host of the Parenting Reset Show podcast, which is listened to worldwide by thousands of parents. Tess believes that the best parenting skill is right inside of you. It's all about the connection and relationship you have with the children that matter most. Tess lives in San Anselmo with her teenage boy and her dog named Red. She loves chai tea lattes, meditating while moving, and cold dipping every Sunday at sunrise in the San Francisco Bay. Welcome, Tess.
Thank you so much, Christina. It's so nice to be here.
Yes, dipping in the San
Ye-
Francisco Bay, huh?
I know. I did not go this morning. I got myself ready for this show. So, yeah, usually at least once on the weekend, usually every Sunday, right
Oh,
at the
wow.
base of the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah. It's cold, but it's so fun. It's a big community and it's wonderful. And it's good for
That
you.
is awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear a lot of people are starting to do this, have all these amazing health benefits, so that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, yes, I'm excited to get going today. We're going to be talking about, well, you have some amazing resources on a tech reset
hmm
contract. So, we're going to be talking
Yep.
about screen times, which is always a challenge in the teen years,
Yeah.
especially in this day and time, as our teens now have been raised with screens from a very young age. So it's a different world out there that they're
Yeah.
growing up in. And so we're going to just be talking about how to kind of navigate
hmm
making sure that we're providing a healthy environment while also, realizing that it is a different world and there's pros and
Yeah.
cons to technology,
Yes.
right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I did reach out to my community and ask them some
hmm
questions that they had about this topic, and so got lots of great questions for you. So, but before we get into these questions,
Yeah.
I'd like to just hear a little bit more about what got you into the work. As your bio said, you've been a social worker for over 20
hmm
years. But then you decided to do parent coaching, and what kind of led to that decision?
The decision to I do parent and family coaching, and it really shifted after many, many years of working as a clinical social worker. I've worked with like really high risk adolescents and their families, like kids that are going into psychiatric hospitals, kids that have, bipolar, significant depression, anxiety, eating disorders. And really, what I have noticed over those many decades is that there is a big, significant piece that can really be helped and supported in and around the parenting. And if parents can be supported at a little bit of an earlier time, that can mean so much and it can make a difference. I mean, some kids and all of us, we all have brains, that just genetically we're just wired a certain way, right? We're either going to be possibly depressed, maybe have anxiety, and during different periods of our life. And all of that is normal. But the parenting, and especially around those years of the middle school and high school years, I think it's so important. It's so critical to be available. And as you mentioned in my bio, that relationship that we have with our tweens and teens is the most important thing. So that's where I started to kind of shift. And really, I also love parenting my own son, who I've got a teenager right now. And so I switched towards, doing the coaching and then bringing in what I love doing is bringing in the entire family, not just sometimes I do work one-to-one with a mother, right, that hires me, but bringing in the entire family, bringing in the teenagers, bringing in dad. And really what happens when you bring everyone in the family together, there's a lot of amazing work that happens. There's a lot of significant changes. And it happens much quicker when you get the entire family kind of together versus just one person working with them. They go off, they make the changes, but it takes some time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. I absolutely agree that the real work is when the whole family is working
yeah,
together and nurturing that relationship. It all comes down to that relationship and can get you through those tough times, as you said, like mental health. And I mean, that's
yeah.
exactly what it was for me and my daughter when she was
Mhm.
struggling with depression. It was the relationship that
Yeah,
helped us get through that difficult
right.
time. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank
And
you.
oh, you're so welcome. And I just wanted to add our families of origin, right? Who and are the people that we grow up with? That piece is so vital. I mean, it really it sets the foundation for our relationships ongoing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And so today we're going to get
Okay.
into screen time and that what is a tech reset. So we're going to get
Okay.
into that. So, I did have a question, and they said, with the
Mhm.
rise of screen time and digital distractions, how can
Mhm.
parents effectively manage their teens' technology usage without causing conflict?
Okay. That's a
Right?
that's a big question. I was waiting for the without the what? Without the conflict. I can't promise you there's not going to be any conflict. I mean, there
Right.
just is in life, right? There is in all relationships, and there definitely is with a teen and a parent relationship. It's kind of it's built in a way developmentally for them to push away from us, and in doing so, with them trying to find their identity outside of us, outside of that family, there's going to be conflict. It's rare. I haven't found any family that hasn't had any, honestly, with teenagers. So I can dive right in here. In terms of doing that without conflict, I'm just going to say there probably will be some conflict. It doesn't need to be extreme, and it doesn't need to be battles, and it doesn't need to be parents hiding devices, right? Which I know parents have done. I've worked with parents that have done that, just hide them before they come home from school, or I just dismantle them, take them away, all that kind of stuff. There's ways to do it without getting to that extreme. Um, and one of the ways that I've done years and years ago when my son was actually in elementary school, I developed a tech reset agreement. And I don't know if you have a copy of it. I've got a copy of it here, but this having an agreement and working with your, tween or teen It's, and even earlier, you can do this in elementary school. But having a discussion around devices and how we as a family are going to use these devices and what our digital values are. I know that's a new term, that's a relatively new term that a lot of families are not, right? We didn't become parents and think, yeah, I gotta pay attention to that my digital values. Like I didn't even think of it when my son was born, right? 15 years ago. We do need to pay attention to it now because screens, as we know, they're ubiquitous. They are everywhere. And so we as parents need to really have a sense of like, how important are they to our family? What does this mean? How do we do things? Do we want to have phones at the table? Can we all sit down on the sofa and be looking at screens separately? Like, what do we value? How do we want to do this? So having a conversation, I always tell parents, start with your partner, whoever you're parenting with, right? Or if you're solo, you're solo. But have an idea about kind of what is important to us. How do we kind of do this? And do we want to, do we want to give them some free reign in certain areas? So have a sense of that before you go in. And then I would say you're having a meeting with your whoever it is, with your tweens, teens, or even if it's younger ones. You can have a meeting to talk about, hey, we've talked about this, and we think it's really important that we have some kind of agreement around what we're doing as a family with all of our screens and devices, right? Because we have them too as adults. Like, we're on laptops, we're on our phones all day long. So, and by the way, I will put in here, they are watching us, even little ones, like just the entire time they're in our home, they are watching what we do rather than just what we're saying. Okay. So if you're on your screen a lot and during dinner and all of that, they're paying attention to that. Right.
Yeah.
So they're really paying attention to that. So having kind of a set idea of like what's important to you as a family, that's a good place to start. Have that discussion with your partner, and then have a meeting with your family to say, here's what we'd like to do. We want to set up an agreement. And we're going to set up an agreement also, I would say, which parents don't always love, but you have to abide by some of these. If you put out some of these rules around screens, we as parents need to follow them, right? Ours may look different, and it might look different for your 8-year-old versus your 16-year-old. That's definitely true, right? Developmentally, they're in different places. But if there's a kind of a set thing, so on the first part of my tech reset agreement, we talk about just right at the outset that screen time is a privilege. It's not a given. And I know a lot of teens kind of bristle at that, like, whoa, what do you mean? Yes, I get to have my screens. And actually, I mean, this is my feeling about it. This is my values, but no, it's actually a privilege to have these devices in our home. Right. Not all teens have them. A good majority do in our culture here in the United States, right? And around the world, but there's also places where you don't have them. So it's a privilege, and we're going to use them with care and intent to enjoy, learn, and interact with others, right? Keeping in mind the value of our connection. I always go back to that. The most important thing is that we're connecting. We have a good, positive relationship. I want that as the parent. That's important to me. And I'm not going to let a screen get in the way of that relationship. I mean, I literally have said those words to my son, no matter what. That's just, so they kind of know where you're coming from. I think that's important. Like, you matter and our relationship matters more than the phone you're holding right now and looking at. So I kind of start there, and most families will, like in the beginning part of that agreement, that's where I start out. I start out with the value of like what matters to us as a family. And then I say some things right underneath there. Meal times are a device-free zone, which a lot of families do. They will put them away, unless it's kind of one of those random, I don't know, Sundays or Saturdays or something where they're like, okay, everyone can get on their phone, or maybe they share something that they're looking at on their phone. Some families do that. But for the most part, meal times are device-free zone. Screen times are not going to get in the way. This is for kids. Homework, right? Your household chores or other activities, swimming, dance, sports, music lessons, whatever you're doing, the device is not getting in the way of those things because those are their responsibility. They're to be used appropriately and safely. And I say that, and that's where I cue parents when you talk about that with kids, is to talk about what does appropriately and safely mean. That to me means at teenage years or even tween years, even elementary years possibly, but You talk to them about not giving out their own personal information online to anyone.
Right.
Letting them know you're talking about porn, not going on those sites. There's also many ways to be able to block these sites that it can't even happen. They're, having phones, and we can talk about that later, but having phones that are kind of there's parental controls that we can have on the inside of phones that really help to block these. But that's the time to talk about being safe online, what's appropriate, that kind of stuff. And then I have down, devices are only allowed in these rooms. And I let my kiddo know, and we've always done this, that we don't have phones in the bedrooms. Like, you're not having it overnight. So it gets plugged in to either the place in the kitchen or it gets plugged into my room, but it's off, it's not on. So letting them know right at the outset, these are kind of like dad and I, or mom and I decided this is the way it's going to be, like in terms of, I don't want devices at the table. Here's my reason why. Your screen is not going to get in the way of your homework you have to do, or going to swim class, or whatever it is, and they're to be used appropriately, safely. So once we kind of get through that, then I include the kiddo, whatever age they are, into figuring out with you as the parent, kind of how you're going to do these devices. So I actually have, all the days of the week, and you work together. And why I'm saying work together, I'd even say even as young as like 8. I did this with my son at 8 years old. When do you think you should have, at that time he only had an iPad, right? When could you have the iPad? And I was surprised, but he's like, okay, I should only have it for like a half an hour, like on the weekend or something. He said something, and it was way more restrictive than I was going to be. Like, sometimes they say that. Now he's not going to say this now at 15 and a half. Now he's like, right. I should have it all the time. But you'd be surprised, you include them in it. And the reason you're doing that, this is really important. If you're including them in the discussion, that is helping them. They're going to have more buy-in. They feel like, I've got some control over this. It's not just mom and dad telling me what to do. I have some control over this. I get to have a say. Now, if it's wildly off mark and they're like, I think I should have it till, midnight every single school night, well, then you're like, okay, come on. You can't have that. You got to have enough sleep. That would be another thing that's come up with parents. You have to have enough sleep. So, and ideally, right, we all know now, you need to be off these devices. We, even as adults, on our brain, which is not actively growing like the tween and teen brains are, you need to be off devices for at least, an hour or two prior to bedtime to have a good full sleep cycle. So you got to back that up even more. So you describe some of this to them, you include them in it, and then I have the days of the week, and the Sunday through Thursday, the school days, tend to be a certain amount of time. We've said, he doesn't have it in the mornings because they're off to school, but in the afternoons after football or after whatever he's doing, then he has some time that he can use it. And there's a break for dinner. And then you have some other time, maybe in the evening, if homework's been done, if the chore has been done, right? And you've taken care of everything you need to do. And then it gets shut off at this time. And then what I've done, so after going through the days of the week, and then the weekends look different. And there again, negotiating on how your family does your weekends. What do they look like? Preferably, it's always good, and this is something I've talked about in my Tech Reset Masterclasses, if you insert more face-to-face, like outside, even if it's not outside because it's the winter, or just bowling, some other activities to do, there's just automatically less time for screens. So it's always great to have some plan for your kids. If you do have older ones like I do, they already have, like, he now is doing golf. So he's already got his golf planned. He's got his laundry to do, whatever. You insert other activities they need to do so that there's just less time. So having them included in the discussion is really going to help the outcome. They're going to feel like they have more buy-in, they have more control. Oh, I have a say in like what we're doing. Yes, you do to some degree, as long as it's reasonable, right? And especially for a tween or teen, it also gets them, and I'd say definitely the high school years, it gets them thinking about, in just a few years from now, I'm going to be on my own. And I say this to my son, you're going to need to start making your own decisions around how you're going to use this. And quite honestly, you're not going to get through college or function at a job or have good relationships if you are constantly on a device. Now, he's not, but I'm just saying that these will affect things and you're making those decisions. So what I'm trying to do is get helping parents help their tween or teen figure out, like, start thinking about these things. Yeah, when do I want to use them? Oh, I guess it's not best to be using them. Obviously, I can't use them in school. I can't use them in class, whatever they're doing. And unfortunately, I do see, I mean, especially with boys, and I'm guessing this probably happens a bit with girls, but what I actually just see around locally is that kids will be together, which is great, right? They're IRL, they're in person. They might be hanging out on their bikes, or they're hanging out at the local burrito shop, whatever it is, but they're often on their phones. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I guess it's better than being solo on your phone, but I am like, can you pull that phone away and like look up? And I have asked my son about this, and I've talked to him about it. He said, Mom, actually, we look up things together. We're looking up, I don't know, the stats on the last football game or something like that, right? And then we're talking about it, and then we chit chat with the other about, and I can see that happening, right? So they're kind of using it as something they're looking at, I don't know, the football scores or something, right? And then they're talking about it. I guess that's better, but it is just something that I've noticed. So I've got more to go through, but I want to kind of have, break in case there's anything you want to check in with me about.
Yes, I love that. And I love framing it as having a conversation around tech values, right? Just like we have those discussions around our values around sexual relationships or any of those things, we need to have those conversations around tech values. So I love that. And using it as, having that contract. So something that you are talking about as a family. And like you said, the question was without conflict, and there's always going to be conflict, right?
It's going to be some.
But when you include them in that conversation and the creating of that contract and get their buy-in, then you're going to, more likely you're going to have less conflict arise.
Right? Yes, absolutely. And there really will be. And also, I'm just going to put this out. I may not have said it before, but you want to let them know, if you're talking about a tween or teen in those years, let them know ahead of time that this is coming. Hey, Dad and I have talked about this. I keep saying Dad and I because I often work with mothers, but it could be Mom and I, whoever. We're having a conversation about this right now. We're talking about all the, the screen time stuff and all the phone use for the whole, and just say for the whole family. So you're not like, we're talking about you and all the problems you are. It's not that. It's more around, we're talking about it and we're going to make some changes in the house. Give them heads up. It really helps, especially teens. Give them a heads up. Like I'd say a week before, and they may start wondering and worrying about some changes, and just say, there's no worry about it. We're going to have you in the conversation. We want you to join us, but just know that we're having this conversation. We're going to talk about it on, on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. We're going to have this conversation. So, and then we'll talk to you about it then. You're going to be part of it. So, well, is it going to be major? Am I losing my phone? No, it's nothing like that. We just more as a family want to talk about like how we all use our phones, even, Dad and I or whatever. We're going to be talking about that. So giving them a heads up really will help because it kind of preps them already that there's a change coming. So they're wrapping their head around, okay, there is going to be a change happening. Okay. And when they hear, oh, I'm going to be included, and it's like, I'm not in trouble. I'm not getting my phone taken away. All of those things are going to decrease some conflict. And you're being proactive, and it really does help. Springing things on kids and saying, the phone thing is going to completely change. And I mean, I'm going to say, I have said that, and we're doing things completely differently. Nothing's working. It sets them off. Do you mean to be defensive?
Yeah.
And that's going to increase conflict for sure, because they're like, oh, God, they're going to pull it. So I've got a
Yeah.
couple more things around the agreement, but I want to give a
Yes, and
pause
I
if you need it.
definitely have so much to ask you around
Okay.
what we've been talking, but we do
Yeah.
need to take a quick sponsor break. So let's go ahead
Hmm.
and do that. So we will be right back. You have been watching Kick Your Teens Troubles to the Curb. I'm your host, Christina Nation, and we're streaming on Bowl Brave TV. We will be right back after the sponsor break. Thank you.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
All right, welcome back to Kick Your Teens Troubles to the Curb. And with me is my guest, Tess Connolly. We have been having a wonderful conversation about her tech reset contract.
Hmm.
And I have so many questions. And first off, I just know one thing I like to say is how I love how you've reframed it as a reset, because
Yes.
I often have lots of parents who come to me and be like, "Well, it's too late. I already gave them the
Ah,
phone and it's already out
yep.
of control. And what do I do now?" You
Yeah.
know?
Yes. And I've
Yes.
heard that too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think for some of us it kind of sneaks up on how
Hmm.
quickly it can get out of control. And so then we're like, what do we do? And like you said, and for us as adults as well, like
Yeah.
we suddenly realize that we're spending too much time on our phones, that we're in front of our screens and laptops too often as well. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's good for the whole family to just have that reset.
Exactly. And I love that word, and that's why I have this is the tech reset, and I have the parenting reset show podcast. I mean, I love the idea and really of resetting, right? Because we can do it, and as parents, we reset all the time, especially if you've got
Mhm.
a tween or teen. You are like shifting things up, and kind of the ground's moving underneath your feet because they're changing so fast and so much is going on developmentally. So yeah, reset is exactly what's needed in so many places as parents.
Yeah. And so like you mentioned a couple of things, having some of those no screen times like dinner or
Hmm.
and one thing that I love that and at bedtime as well in the rooms, I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's so critical as well. And then one thing that you talked about was um, you know, including more activities, right? So
Yes.
a lot of times
Yeah.
I get parents that ask me, like, it's what do I do? It's out of control. They're on their
Hmm.
gaming all the time or on their
Right.
phone all the time. And what I always suggest is, like you said, trying to include more activities outside of screens to
Yep.
fill that time. So like you said,
Yes.
the sports, the hobbies, taking a walk outside,
Hmm.
family time, any of
Right.
those other activities that you can
Yeah.
include and say, homework is a must, no phones, no
Yep.
screens during homework. There's got to be some physical activity every day. There's got to be some family time. There's got to be time to do chores. And when you're naturally having those things in the schedule, then there's just less time to be on the
Yes.
screen.
Absolutely. And paying attention to, I mean, I developed this tech reset masterclass that I have. It's about a 45-50 minute masterclass. And then I do give people the tech reset agreement and I go through this. But I've talked about that. Like I developed it right after the pandemic, right? The pandemic, we
Mm.
had just everybody's inside, everybody's on screens. If you weren't on screens before, you were then because it was your only way to see the outside world. So we kind of had to. We were forced to kind of go and look at screens in order to
Yes.
see what was happening in the world. And so that I developed this coming out of the pandemic because we really needed to go back to, oh, remember when we'd have like, I mean, this was also back even prior to the pandemic, years before, but like we'd have like game night, when they were kind of younger.
Mhm.
We'd have just a night and maybe music was playing, but you'd have a game night. You'd just walk the dog together, if you've got a
Mhm.
dog. You'd kind of go do hobbies, things like go do like some mini golf or go, I don't know why I keep thinking bowling, but some activities that you do together, going on a hike, something that you as a
Mhm.
family, and if you're inserting that we're doing that on every Saturday at this time because it's in between soccer practice or whatever people have, that's there and that's a part of your family's life and it's a way to be together. I mean, out in nature, which is great, or if you're doing an activity, just that they know that they can count on that and no one's going to be on their screens. Maybe you take a family picture, but that's about it, right?
Yeah.
You have kind of that time. And I wanted to just go back. You had said right at the right after the break that a lot of, and I've heard this too, a lot of parents feel like, oh, it's too late. Like
Mhm.
like they're 16. There's no, and I have heard this too. There's no pulling that back. And I said, oh my gosh, they're only 16. Like
Right.
can you imagine? Like they have got the rest of their lives, obviously, to figure this out. But right now, while they're here, in these tween and teen years, they're learning by not only looking at us, but they're learning how to uh, modify and figure out what do I want to do? Do I want to be on this thing all the time? You've got to get them starting to think about that, and it's definitely not too late for 16. I've even worked with a mom who had two 17-year-olds. We did the screen time agreement for the very first time, and they were like 9 months from leaving the home to go to college, right? But she
Mhm.
said she felt really good about it. They also felt good about it because it just gave them some structure and it gave them an idea of like, oh, I don't have to be on this all the time, even though all of my friends are. I don't need to be. I can be doing other things. So it's never too late. Will it be harder? I'm going to just say this. Yes, it gets
Yeah.
harder if you have not set any limits ever and you're starting at 16. It'll be harder. And yes, you'll have conflict. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just going to be, but you have to preface it and say, hey, you know what? I watched something on Bold Brave TV the other day, or I read something, right? Or I heard about this tech reset agreement. Whatever it is, you let them know. And in about on the weekend, I want to talk with you about some changes we're going to make. Again, prepping it, being proactive, letting them know it's coming, that there's nothing bad they've done. I just learned something new. So you're also exhibiting a growth mindset. And
Right.
we're going to make some changes in our family. And let them know too the reason why, because our relationship matters so much. I don't want to just have it, we only have you for another year. I don't want it gone to a screen. And
Yeah.
so you're letting them know kind of where that is coming from. And I mean, I do that all the time, even with chores or whatever the kids do that they don't like to do, is letting them know, even at young ages, why they're doing it. Because then they know, like, oh, I'm contributing to the house. This is our home. This is how we take care of it. We sweep the floor, we do the laundry, we vacuum, whatever it is, so that kids
Right.
know. And it really does make a difference to them to kind of know that value that you have, because they're going to take those with them when they head out into the world. I mean, they may moan and complain for years, but then when they get out there on their own and they're 20, right, they're going to pull back to those things they learned, and they get to decide whether they'll say, no, I don't want to be like mom and dad for a while. I don't know. And then they'll come back around. It all varies, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the next question you've answered a little
Mhm.
bit was some recommendations for parents looking to establish healthy boundaries around technology and social media. So
Yes.
you talked a little bit about, the importance of having that conversation and establishing those expectations together as a
Hmm.
family around
Yeah.
having some of the, screen-free times. Um,
Hmm.
but let's talk a little bit about social media as well. And I do get asked by a lot of parents, well, your experience as a social worker and
Hmm.
those youth that are struggling with mental health challenges and such,
Yes.
how much do you think social media is contributing to that?
It's a significant part, and it has changed even in the last few years. Social media has exacerbated so much. I mean, I don't know if you know that book by Jonathan Haidt, The Anxious
Hmm.
Generation. Okay, I love that book. I
Yeah.
truly do. And one of the things he's talked about in there um, is, and I advocate for this for the parents that I work with, is push off social media use as long as possible. I mean,
Mhm.
literally, that's just it. As long, and if they say, well, what age is that? I mean, definitely if you can try to get through middle school with no social media, and particularly I'm going to say, because I also do I do a lot of psychotherapy with tween girls, and that's that middle school girl age. I tend to get tween girls in my practice, and particularly for girls, because girls tend to be on the social media sites that are visual, right? Like
Mhm.
Instagram or Facebook. They're on TikTok too. And the boys tend to go towards, they will do TikTok or like YouTube, but then they're also playing some video games where they're
Yeah.
interacting with each other. So just being on those, particularly those sites, and I'm just going to say it's Instagram, is just very manicured, right? It's just a
Mhm.
perfectly done view. And this is not real life. We all know that. We know that as adults. And even us as adults with a fully formed brain, and we've already been through life, can look at these and think, oh, maybe my home should look like that, or I should be looking at like that at that age, or whatever it is. So particularly for girls, it's really, I mean, he talks about it in that book, but it's really harmful. It's not going to benefit them. Let's put it that way. If people say like, what is the harm? The harm is looking at, because I've actually answered this with the tween girls that I work with. They're just like,
Mhm.
my mom or dad, they're not letting me have, I want to be on Instagram or I want to be on TikTok. They don't even give them Snapchat, which actually I think is good. Hold off as long as possible. But part of the harm is looking visually at images, like, constantly, about what life is supposed to be like and what it is,
Mhm.
and it's truly not. And that's not reality. And when you're that young, think young, and I'm thinking like sixth, seventh grade. This is young, and you're looking out at other peers that just have these different lives or things, even just a little bit older. You're looking at teenagers that are things are looking so perfect. That's not okay, because that's not reality. It really
Yeah.
isn't. You know.
Definitely. And I
So
know for
yeah.
my, teenage daughter, I
Hmm.
I allowed her some social media as soon as she had the
Hmm.
phone, which was, like, 12, I think is
Yeah.
when she did, And during middle school is
I
rough
know.
as it is without
It
social
is.
media, right?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you add social media to the mix,
Yep.
and and there was so much cyberbullying, a whole another
Yes.
thing, and back in the day, in our day, there'd be friend drama at home, but then or at
Hmm.
school, but then you come home and you get a break from that. But now with social media and being online 24/7, is you
Yep.
don't get away from it. It's just there, and that it can
Right.
really affect your mental health, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially with girls, like you said, because how there's a lot of relational stuff that goes on, especially in middle school with girls, and navigating friendships, and then the drama, and like what's happening with so and so, and one year you've got these friends, the next year you've got different friends. It's shifting and changing so much. So I mean, I really do. I advocate to parents for them to not have any social media as long as possible. If they do have a phone in middle school, let them text with their friends, give them time for FaceTime, right? Where you're face to face. That's
Mhm.
great. That's a great use. And that's an amazing thing about these devices that we didn't have, 15, 20 years ago, is to be able to FaceTime, because that is real. That's where you're looking at a person. Kind of, you're not right there with them, but you're looking and you're seeing facial expressions and the nonverbals, and that's almost like being right there in a conversation with them. That's as good as it kind of gets for these devices, in terms of the best use of them is that FaceTime, where you can actually see someone. So I say, go ahead and let your 12 or 13-year-old daughter do FaceTime with her friends. That's a
Yeah.
great thing when she's back at home and they can't be together at school. Do that. But to hold off on Snapchat, because that sometimes can get a little slippery. I've even seen it with my son, who was on Snapchat in the middle school years. And I will say that once it's there, it is harder when you allow them. And then you say, oh, you know what? I looked at that and I don't think that's good for you. I'm going to pull it back. Pulling back is really hard. So that's why,
Mhm.
just when you hand them the phone, you're sitting down and having a conversation about the fact that it's a privilege. Here's what we expect. Here's how we'd like you to use it at 11 or 12 years old. You're not going to be on social media sites for a while, but enjoy the phone to talk on the phone, to have FaceTime, to text with your friends. But it's not loaded with all the social media.
Yeah.
And then you slowly put that in as they get older.
So let's say you have these agreements in place and
Yep.
they're not following through. They're I
Yes.
know a lot of parents ask about that too. What do I do when they're not following through, when they're on social media, they downloaded apps and they're
Yes.
keeping it from me, and they're sneaking their phone in their room at night, and
Oh my gosh. All of that. It all happens. It all happens to all of us, even if we have an agreement, right? So that's actually the second page, because I have one sheet of paper for this tech reset agreement. It's got a front side, which I've already talked about, and it's got the back side. The back side is all about how you're having a discussion with them. Hopefully, if you haven't done it, you can do it at any time. I'd like to talk with you about how you get off the device. Now, I'm saying that because this is a significant part. It's significant for very young kids getting off their iPads, or even ending TV, right? When they're younger, when they're like
Mhm.
elementary age.
Yeah.
But it's really, really important for the tweens and teens to have us, because we don't talk. A lot of parents don't talk. They're like, I've never talked about how they are. They just need to put it there. I'm like, put it where, and how does that happen? And if you're having problems with them all the time about they don't get off, like you haven't, well, we never talked about that. Okay, well, so we're going to talk about that now. So
Mhm.
that's the conversations I talk with them about, having these, how are you going to end my screen time? And here's where, again, you're including the tween or teen in this conversation. So how would you and I've done this with my kid at every 8 all the way up to 15. How do you want to get off the device? And it looks different at 8. Okay, well, I'm going to, when they're younger, they may need a little bit more support, especially if you're just starting out and you're doing this and they are younger. Let's just say that they're sixth grade, seventh grade. I'm going to need some help. Some of them will say that I need help kind of getting off. Okay, what is that going to look like? Do you want me So I love to try to get parents out of playing the screen time police, so to speak, because that's what they feel like. They often say like, I just feel like I'm just the screen time police. There's nothing else I'm doing. Not talking to them about anything except this. So let's set it up so that you're not the screen time police. And how you do that is that you're going to have them have ways to get off that is not going to include you. Meaning, I have said, do you want Alexa to beep at a certain time? And when you hear that, that's your cue to get off, right? Or we can also have a timer that's going to go off. That isn't me. You can have some external timer, right? But we all have some of these devices that we could just use and it'll make a beep beep sound, and that's their cue to kind of get off. Or on the inside of phones, which I have on my son's phone, like I've set it up so there's an app there are many different apps you can use to control the phone, but that control will be there it might be set for like 2 hours, or I can set it and it'll go off at 9 o'clock. You've got to be off at 9. Like it's just, the phone isn't going to work. Right? He's in the middle of a game and he knows. And I said, what you'll need to do. Now, this is a teenager, right? This is this was actually last year, freshman year. You're going to need to look at the clock and know it's 8:45. And in 15 minutes, whatever game you're playing with your friends on Saturday night, it's going to go off, because it's happened so many times where then they get frustrated. So again, including them in the discussion, saying, how would you like to get off? And if they're younger, I'd say early tween years, I need you to help me get off because I'm not going to listen to the timer. I'm so absorbed in whatever I'm looking at.
Right.
I won't get off. Okay. If they're okay with that, and I say this because a 16-year-old does not want you tapping them on the shoulder saying, give me the phone. They will not. In fact, a 14-year-old and a 13-year-old doesn't like it. But if they're okay with it, and the younger they are, I would say it does help to kind of come over and maybe give them a heads up 10 minutes ahead. I know it requires work for you, but tap them on the shoulder, because it's also a physical cue that kind of connects us to like the reality of the world. If we've been engrossed in like our own TV show and someone taps us on the shoulder, it's like, oh, okay. And we come back into the present moment. And like you just say, you got 10 more minutes and then you'll need to put up your iPad or your phone, I love having community docking stations. So somewhere in the kitchen where everybody, mom and dad, they put their phone, right? It goes in that one place. So then they know. And then when the time comes, you come back, hey, tap on the shoulder, because you've already agreed that that'll help them then put the phone up. An older teen is not going to want you to touch them.
Right.
I mean, this is no, it has to be a device. It has to be something that they either say, I will know myself. And then you say, okay, if you know to get off at 9, then I'm going to come up and check at like maybe the first week or so. I'm going to come up and check at 9. If you get up there at 9 and they're still on, then you're going to say, hey, you agreed. So allow them some time to practice and fail. And I'm saying this because it's okay that they fail. So if they do, and this keeps happening night after night, just say, okay, we need to reset again. We need to regroup. This isn't working with me coming up and you're wanting to do it on your own. So we are going to need to have a timer, or maybe I get that app on my phone that just shuts it down, or you use Alexa, but you have to use something because right now you're not doing it on your own. So how would you like to do this? Again, I'm including him or her in this discussion. Like, what do you want to do? And so I think the timer works well, like an Alexa works well to shut it off, or having the app on the phone that you can do it with your own, wireless carrier, whether it's AT&T or Verizon, whoever you have. They all have ways underneath to just simply go on as parental controls and shut it off at 9 o'clock, and then you let them know, okay, we've tried it your way. We tried to let you just get off on your own, but it didn't work. So let them know the language around this is important. Let them know that this is practice. I know you're practicing it. And if you're not able to do it, I get it. And this is okay. Like it may be really hard for them to do at 13, whereas at 16, they'll be doing it on their own, because there's just going to be much more things in life, that whether it's dating or a job or, a homework, that just gets harder. They're going to be getting off on their own a little bit more as they get older. They just have more stuff going on. And also the brain is more developed and able to kind of function a little bit better at 16, 17 than at 12 and 13.
Yeah.
So I would allow them time to practice, include them in it. I like timers. I use apps on the phone. So there's all different apps out there. The one that I've used that really significantly holds the phone, it's not easy to put on the phone. I'm just going to say it requires you connecting the phone to the computer, but it's called OurPact. It's Our PACT. And it is a great app for really controlling the phone. I mean, my teenager hates it. So that tells me it's working. Do you know what I mean? Like it really holds it.
Oh my gosh, there's so much more we could get into. I mean, we could go on and on about this topic, and it's
Yes,
such an
I know.
important topic, but we are running out of time. So please share how people can access your masterclass and your reset contract or agreement.
Okay. The best thing to do is just sign up to be on my Mindful Kids and Families email list. And as soon as you do that, you will get a tech reset agreement. So do I can just tell you, I mean, it's a long name, but it's Mindful Kids and Families, all one word. So mindfulkidsandfamilies.com. And that's where you can find me. You're also, I mean, I will tell your audience, you're welcome to email me and I will get that to you. I'll get you on the list. And then I'll let you know about the next masterclass that we have coming up. And you can email me and do you want me to give you the actual email in the chat or just say it?
We'll have it underneath in the description.
Okay.
So
yeah. So you're welcome to email me. Also just go to my website and there should be a link there to get your own agreement.
Yeah, wonderful. And I highly recommend it. It is a very valuable and useful agreement form. So thank you so much for creating that. Thank you so much for the work that you do with families and youth alike. And thank you, all of you, for tuning in for our show today. And look forward to seeing you next week. This has been Christina Nation with Kick Your Teens Troubles to the Curb, streaming on Bold Brave TV. And you can find the replay on YouTube, Spotify, all of the streaming platforms. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Bye-bye.
This has been Kicking Your Teens Troubles to the Curb with host Christina Nation. Tune in each week as Christina features expert interviews, real-life stories, and practical strategies that empower parents to connect with their teens and effectively address their struggles. Here, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.